Okay. So thank you everyone for attending our NAC service area briefing today.
感谢大家去参加今天这个社区会议。
My name is Sherry and I am the NAC program associate at PCDC.
她的名字是Sherry Wang 屏幕上面有她的中文名字，她是这个 NAC 的助理。
And Ping is our program manager at PCDC.
然后我是叫李平海，我是这里PCDC 的项目经理。
Yes. And today we have speakers from the Office of Property Assessment.
今天我们的讲员这个嘉宾是从这个物业评估办公室上来的。
Yes, and I believe it is James and Kate.
So say the name.
James and Kate.
OK， 他们两个的名字是 James 还有 Kate。
Okay, and then later on we have another session from the Energy Coordinating Agency.
然后之后我们还有一个晚一点就有这个能源机构。
Yes, and the presenter from there will be Steve.
然后嘉宾是 Steve。
Okay. And I just wanted to share a brief introduction of what NAC is for anyone in this meeting who is not familiar.
他等一下会很简单的介绍一些这个 NAC 是什么。
Okay, so NAC stands for Neighborhood Advisory Committee.
这个NAC 是这个叫做邻里咨询委员会。Are you going to go to the second slide?
Did it not move?
Yeah, it did move.
Are you still on the introduction slide?
Yes.
Oh. Did it move now?
No. Do you share applications or what are you sharing?
Okay, let me just stop sharing and then share. Okay, you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so NAC is essentially a program that does outreach to help residents learn more about city programs that are available to them.
这个 NAC 的机构是帮助这个费城的居民去了解市政府的这些资源。
Yes, so that can include programs like mortgage and property tax assistance, utility assistance, housing programs, and such.
包括就是贷款这个贷款、公款、这个地税，然后能源补助这些资料。
Yes. So that is it for my introduction to NAC.
现在就是他的这个介绍就讲完了。
Okay, and James, whenever you are ready, you can just start sharing your screen and get started.
现在就交给 James 去开始他的一部分。
Thank you, Sherry. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me today.
So 他说下午好，大家，他说很感谢可以过来这里。
As Sherry mentioned, my name is James Arrows. I am the Chief Assessment Officer for the City of Philadelphia.
他的名字是 James Orr, right? Am I right? How to say your last name?
Arrows.
OK， 他是从市政府的这个主要这个物业管理局来的。
And also with me today is Kate McGlinchey, the OPA's Chief of Staff.
然后还有一个Kate， 他是是这个物业办公室里边过来的。
Okay, and give me 1 second. I will pull up the slides and share my screen.
他会把他的材料分享给大家。Are you able to share or you need to write and co-host write?
No, I think I have that.
Okay, good.
Let me see.
While we're waiting, Sherry, can you also reshare the link for sign in again? I think someone was saying, oh, you already did. Good. Okay. Yes, go ahead, James.
All right, you can see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the tax year 2023 reassessment, what that means for folks and how it was performed. and additional information around the reassessment for this year.
他是在过来这里就是讲关于这个2023年这个物业评估的 ，OK， 就是这个评估是有什么是什么意思啦，然后他是怎么去评估的，然后还有就是其他资料。
So very briefly, I'll talk about what the OPA, the Office of Property Assessment, does.
他会先讲一些他们这个 OPA 就是物业评估办公室是做什么的。
So the three major things we do are value all real property for the purposes of ad valorem taxation for Philadelphia.
它主要就是评估一些这些这些物业的，就是用来就是去收税。
We administer the city's abatement and certain exemption programs.
他们还是就是还有就是一些计划，就是这个免地税啊，还有就是这个这些计划。
And we are also the official addressing authority of the city in determining what a property's address would be.
而他们也是就决定说这个地址这个物业的地址是什么。
And briefly, what the OPA does not do is we do not bill or collect real estate taxes or formally determine what your tax bill is and what you should pay.
他们什么是他们不做了啦？他们不会去追这个地税，追讨，就还是去就是给账单说这个物业税是多少。
We don't set tax rates or tax policy.
他们也不会说确定这个税率是多少，还有这个税的政策是怎么样。
And we are not the department that officially determines who the legal owner of a property would be.
他们也不是那些法律部门去确定这个房子是归谁的。
So talking about the assessment that we just did, our goal is to regularly perform assessments that will allow us to accurately reflect what properties are worth in the open market and that similar properties are valued in a similar way.
OK， 他们的主要就是去进行一个常规的这个重新评估，去确保这些物业这些房子的这个价值是准确的，然后也反映现在市场上它的这个价值。
So for this reassessment, we looked at all of the over 580,000 residential, commercial, industrial, and institutional properties in the city.
他们怎么做了？他们就是看了这个58万的这个是住家商家，还有就是工业方面的，还有就是这些教育的这些物业在费城市的这些房子。
The new values take effect for tax year 2023, which will be the bill that is due next spring. And OPA's date of assessment, meaning the date that we estimate your property value is, will be January 1, 2023.
它这个新的价值就是会影响这个税收年度2023年，然后他们就是去做这些评估的哪一天呢？就是是1月1号2023年的。
So the last citywide reassessments prior to this year took place in 2019 and 2020, which means that this year's reassessments are capturing several years of changes in the real estate market.
上一次这个就是全市做的这个重新评估是2019年还有2020年，所以现在这一次新的评估代表就是反映这个改变是这几年的时间的改变。
So OPA made several changes and implemented some new processes since our last reassessment. I won't go through each one of these individually, but I will point out some of the highlights.
他说从上一次这个重新评估到现在是有他们这个办公室是有一些改变的，他们不会说所有都讲，可是他会讲最重要的几点。
So most importantly, we have a new computer system that allows us to keep track of data and do assessments more quickly and track all the information about an assessment more comprehensively than before.
他们现在是有一个电脑系统是比较强势的，它就是把这些数据在里边去计算的。
And we also made some improvements to our data collecting process in hiring some data analysts and creating a unit that just looks at sales throughout the city to see what good sales are for determining what a property is worth.
然后他们整个数据收集了也是更完善的。他们就是聘请了一些数据的这个员工，他们故意就是有一个单独的部门是去看所有的这个买卖的这个价钱，去做更准确的。
And these are based on some recommendations done by a study that we had performed on ourselves and also one done by City Council.
这些改变是之前做的他们一些调查就是还有他们市政府的建议，就是然后去执行这些改变的。
So talking briefly about the assessment process, OPA uses what is known as mass appraisal to systematically value all properties throughout the city with the goal of ensuring that they reflect current market conditions.
这个他们办公室是用一些很多的这个数据调查去评估就是还有系统里边的去重新评估这些物业的这个价钱，就是目的就是去确保这些重新评估是反映现在的市场的这个情况。
Mass appraisal is similar to a single property appraisal, which people might get for purchasing a property or for a bank loan. But instead of doing one property at a time, we do large groups of properties at once.
这些评估其实跟这些买卖房子的时候需要做的这个评估是跟银行去做的评估是一样的。可是就是不是说做一家的一个房子，他们是可能好几家很多的这个物业一起去做的。
So some of the things that go into the valuations at OPA for residential properties are the size, style, and age of a property.
他们去就是考虑什么因素了如果是住家的话了，他们要看这个房子大小这个型号这个是什么类型的，还有这个物业这个房子就是有多少年。
The property's location within the city and the condition of the property.
还有这个房子的这个地点是在哪里，还有它现在的这个情况是怎么样。
And then once we have that data, we take sales of similar properties in the area and look at differences between properties that have sold and properties that haven't sold and figure out what each of those elements is worth to determine a value for the property.
然后他们也会看最近就是差不多一样的这个房子他们最近的这个买卖记录在这个区的，然后还有去就是考虑一些这些卖的这个房子跟现在没卖的，就是这个区别是怎么样。
Essentially, we want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges when we do these assessments. So in other words, properties in the far northeast are not being compared to properties in South Philadelphia or in Center City when we do these assessments.
他们希望就是可以就是苹果对苹果九子对九子，就是当然他们不会说很远的东北区就是跟南北城去比较，还是跟市中心去比较。
Likewise, large brand new properties are not being compared to properties that are smaller and 100 years old.
当然了那些很大的新的建筑房子的话，当然不会跟那些小的年纪很大的这些房子去比较。
So for commercial and large multifamily properties, meaning multifamily properties that have 5 or more apartments, we determine the value by analyzing sales, operating costs, the income the property generates, or the cost of the land and constructing a similar building.
Okay. 然后如果是这些有一些是商业用途的，就很大的，就是多个家庭的物业，就是说5个以上有单位的这些房子了，他们会看一看这些买卖和记录，然后也会看要营运这一个房子需要多少钱，这个房子可以带来多少的收入，然后这个地的价格是多少，然后还有就是如果要建这些房子需要多少钱。
Next slide talks about an external audit that the department commissioned last year. We contracted with the International Association of Assessing Officers.
他们上一年的时候，他们是有合约了一个机构去帮忙去做这些评估的他们是叫这个 IAAO。
And the goal of that audit was to ensure that we're meeting certain industry standards and also get recommendations on how to keep improving in the future.
这个他们就是目的就是为了确保这个评估是达到这个标准的，还有就是可以去改善的。
That audit was published in May of this year, and it concluded that OPA did meet industry standards for single-family residential properties.
然后是这个他们去做了一个调查，他们这些评估准不准确的话呢，他们是有上一年这一年5月2022年是有这个就是公报出来，这个结果就是说他们这个办公室他们所做的这个评估是达到这个标准的尤其是哪些就是单独的家庭的住房。
So the notices of evaluation for the 2023 reassessment started going out in August, and most homeowners should have received their assessment notice by this point.
有一个通知，这个加急通知啦很多都已经是8月的时候已经是寄去了，大部分的房主都已经收到了。
And if anybody hasn't gotten theirs yet, or they want to double check, they are also posted at property.phila.gov.
然后如果是没有收到，然后想知道的话，也可以上去他们网站 property.phila.gov。
So with your notice evaluation, you would have gotten 3 documents. The first is a cover letter, which explains the notice and the options for filing an appeal.
这个加急通知了，上面是有3张纸的 ，OK， 第一张就是一个第一张是解释说这个评估通知，还有就是你有选择可以上诉的。
The actual notice evaluation, which is not a bill, but it tells you your difference from one year to another in the assessment.
然后还有一个价值通知，就是这个通知是说，这个2023年的那个房子是价值多少，这个不是账单来的，只是通知你就是比较一些每一年的不同。
And also a form if an owner wants to request a first level review, which I'll talk about in detail in a moment.
然后还有一个表格是说，如果你要求第1程度的这个审查的话是可以，他等一下会再说。
So the first level review is an informal process with the OPA where an owner can file with us if they believe their new value is incorrect.
第1程度的这个审查了，这个是非正式的这个上诉程序，就是如果这个房主认为这个房子价值是不对的。
As I mentioned on the last slide, that form is included with your mailed notice evaluation. But if you lose that, the office does have blank forms available if you did not hold on to your form that you got in the mail.
这个表格是跟着这个通知一起寄给你的。可是如果有人不见的话呢，他们是可以跟他们办公室去要求再拿这个表格。
If you file for a first level review, the possible results are your market value could go up, it could go down, or it could remain the same.
如果你填了这个表格的话呢，你的这个房子价值有可能提高，有可能就是降低，也可能是一样的。
Only properties that had a change in the assessment are eligible to file an FLR. So if your assessment is the same as it was last year, you would not be eligible to file an FLR with the OPA.
这个第一程度的这个上诉的话，只有哪些是有增加的、有改变的，才可以去申请。如果是一样的，跟去年是之前的一样的，是不可以申请的。
And the filing deadline for the FLR is October 14th, 2022.
然后这个截止的日期是10月14号2022年。
Another appeal option for folks who think their value is incorrect is to file a formal appeal with the Board of Revision of Taxes.
Uh, 然后如果想正式的去上诉的话呢，就是可以跟他们这个税改委员会去申请。
It is not necessary to file an FLR first, but we encourage folks to file both to see if their issue can be resolved before the formal hearing.
不一定需要先提交这个第一程度的这个审查可是强力建议去看看可不可以用非正式的途径去先把这个解决。
And unlike the first level review, an owner can file a BRT appeal even if their assessment did not change from one year to another.
跟之前哪个是不一样？刚才第一程度的哪一个是不一样？这个 BRT 就是去跟这个税改委员会上诉的话呢，你就算你的这个价值是没有跟之前改变的，是一样的，你也是可以提交这个上诉的。
And finally, I have some information here where folks can go online or call for further information or details about the assessment.
简历上面有一些资料，就是说，如果你是想上网去拿这个申请表还是去看这些资料，都是可以上去看这些网站的。
And at the bottom there included a link to tax relief programs administered by the Department of Revenue, who handles the homestead exemption, loop, and other exemptions that can help folks out if they're having trouble paying.
然后上面最下边这个网站呢，就是一些就是这个降低这个税的这个计划，这个是有从这个税这个税的部门去负责的，它里边有这个就是宅地豁免，还有这个长期住户的减免，还有其他的计划。
And with that, those are all the slides I have. So happy to take any questions that folks might have.
他就说他要讲的就是讲完了，就是想看一看有没有谁是有这个问题的。I think there's a questions. Okay, can we get the form online and have to go to OPA office in person?
The first level review form is not available online, but folks can come down here in person or call and request a form at the number on the screen there.
他就是说第一程度的这个非正式的这个就是网站是没有这个表格的，是寄给你的时候跟着你两个通知一起的。如果你需要的话，你可以去他们办公室，也可以打电话要求他再寄一个表格给你。还有没有谁是有问题的？I do want to ask, so if for people that filing that first level appeal, what would be happening? Like, what's the process after they turn in the form?
So essentially you fill out the form and give us an indication of why you think the value is incorrect and what you think the value is. And then provide any documentation as to why you think it might be wrong. So that's pictures, that's an appraisal that has a different value, or you can request us to come out and take a look at the property as well if you'd like. And we review everything that's submitted and see if it makes sense or if there's a reason to change the value, and then make a determination on whether the value should change or not.
我刚才就是问他一个问题，我就是说这个第一程度的这个上诉表寄过去之后，他们这个程序是怎么样？他就说他们收到表格，你当然在表格上要说你认为是多少钱，要提供一些证据，就是相片就是一个评估然后你们也可以要求他们去你家去看一看这个房子，这些都是可以的。其实我也想，就是我会问一问他，大概这个程序也需要多久了？Just one follow-up question is how long do people expect to have a result?
I'm sorry, could you say that last part again?
Okay, how long? So from the time they submitted the first level appeal to the time that a decision is made, how long should they be expected? Or if they have not heard back, what should they do?
So the length before they get a decision is really going to vary depending on how many forms are submitted. If we get very few, it'll take a very short time. If we get thousands, it'll take a little longer. We aim to respond as quickly as possible within a few months, but it all depends on how many our staff has to go through and address, then depending on where that falls in line. So it could vary depending on how many requests are filed.
OK 我刚才问他是需要多久从寄表格的话，他说要看就是他们有多少个表格寄进去，有些如果是小的话就可以快一点，如果可能有1000的话以上的话，可能需要几个月的，他们就是期望也是尽快去把这些处理好的。Okay. Someone said like the form said the deadline was September 30th, but I think you mentioned it was October.
Correct. So the original deadline was September 30th. We were notified that the Postal Service was having some delays in getting the notices out. So last week we announced an extension till October 14th, which is the date that I talked about earlier.
对，刚才对他这个截止时间是延期了，因为之前他们很多人就是说这个邮局寄信就是就是被延误了，就是晚了，所以他们现在3周就去通告，就是说这个日期是改成10月14号。So they can also, I think one of the question is, can they drop off the form to the office instead of mailing out, because a lot of time OPA said they don't receive it.
So we recommend that folks mail it so they can go directly to the vendor who processes it. But if it's more convenient, they can physically bring it down to the office and turn it in that way as well. But all we're going to do is mail it to the vendor. So it's still kind of the same process. It's just coming from a different point.
他就是说是可以的，其实他们怎么样，就算你拿到去他们办公室，他们还是要寄出去的，因为他们是另外一个部门处理这些上诉的信，所以就是可是哪一个方便，你就可以用哪一个方法。Okay, any more questions? 还有没有谁有问题？
Hello.
你好，我想问一下，就是说，那怎么确认这个信他们已经收到了？因为如果寄出去的话，我们没有回复，我们都不知道他信收到了没有，然后到截止日期到了，然后我们如果再重新发出去，那么他们也不受理的。那如果他们收到了，会不会有一个回迟啊，或者什么给我们 email 说他们那边已经开始接受我们的那个
？Okay, 这个是很好的问题，我问一下。Okay, so Jim, this question is really good. He's asking how can they know that you guys the appeal form is received? Because a lot of times they wrote that it was sent out, but then passed the deadline, and then they were told that it is never received. I mean, is there any notification like email or some confirmations?
So if they bring it down in person, we would timestamp a copy for them if they wanted it, and they could take that back to show that the city has received it as of a certain time. But no matter what format they turn it in, they'll get an acknowledgement letter saying that we did receive the first level review application. The BRT has a little bit of a different process, but we would acknowledge that the first level review was received via either email or I'm sorry, when I say email, you would get an email notification if you gave us an email address, or you would get a letter in the mail saying that it was received.
他说是，如果你直接拿去他办公室的话，他们会印一个日期时间的，然后就会给你一个副本。可是如果你寄过去的，不管你是怎么样，这个第一程度的这个表格啦，不管你怎么样，你他会上面如果你有提供这个 email 的话，他会有 email 寄给你说他们已经收到这个表格了。如果是没有 email 的，他会邮寄一个信说收到你的表格了。
好的，谢谢。
好，没问题。Okay, so actually this question is not relevant. Well, I think someone's asking if Morristown. I'm gonna just tell them this is really strictly for Philadelphia. 有一个问题说费城爱的 Morristown 他们有服务啊，这个不是说呢他们有服务，我们现在这个计划是费城专门是费城市政府的这个评估，因为他们刚刚评估了费城的这些房子，所以我们专门就是做这个这个主题的。我们通常现在讲的计划都是费城市的。Okay. Any other questions? 还有没有谁有问题？Just want to confirm with James. You guys are present you guys are not presenting the relief programs, right? Just want to verify.
No. Revenue Department handles the relief programs, but I wanted to put that link in there in case folks wanted to take a look on their own. But we don't cover that. That's not handled by our department.
OK，我刚才就是问他们就是确认一些，他们不会讲这些税的这个计划，这个免税的计划，因为他们不是他们这个评估办公室去处理的，是这个收税的那个部门去处理的。可是它有一个连接，一个is it possible because I don't have access to the slide? Is it possible you can actually copy the link and put it in the chat in case people want to look it up?
Yeah, I can do that.
OK， 我就是叫他把这个连接发到这个聊天里边，如果你们想看的话也是可以看的。Okay, so actually I just I know I'm always a question person, but I want to know like where can people get help if they need help with completing that FLR forms?
So if folks want to come down here, if they have a question or what to put in the form, they can do that. We do go out and there are certain community meetings, although nothing in Center City we've been asked to go out to, but there are other districts throughout the city that are holding some sort of workshops. But also I would recommend you could reach out to your local city council office and they might be able to help you out and walk you through because they should be pretty familiar with the process.
OK， 我刚才就是问他们呢，如果是有人需要帮忙填这些表格的话呢，他们可以怎么办？他们说如果你们方便的话，到他们办公室里边有问题的话，也可以直接问他们哪边的员工他们有时候可能不是就是市中心这里吧，有其他地区的人去要求他们做一些讲座，可能就是教他们怎么填这个表格，也是他们是有这样子做了。如果是在这里的话，也可以跟费城的市议会他们里边的有员工他们通常是有帮忙去做这些表格的。OK， thank you Kay。刚刚Kay 就在聊天里边放了这个连接，是关于这个税的就是这个减税的这些计划，大家可以看一看。我之前微信里边其实都有放这些资源的。OK。I don't have any question. 还有没有谁是有问题的？ Yeah, we always get a lot of questions people ask like about, okay, the property taxes is like why it go up so much. I think we actually have a client that it was about $200,000 and all of a sudden it was $900,000. Yeah, so that was a shock. Yeah, so it's good that you guys are up here to answer these questions.
Yep, and like I said, there's a couple different. The main reason, if that value that new value is correct, is that the market has changed over the last couple of years, and we may have been undervaluing the property before then. But if they think that number is wrong, they should file one or both of the appeal options that I talked about.
我刚才就是跟 Jim 说了，我们经常 PCDC 有很多人都打电话来问这个地税为什么增加了那么多，我们有一个客人是20几万增加到90几万的。OK， 他就是说就像刚才他说了，可能有些房子之前是 评估低了，评估太低了，所以现在可能重新评估的时候，这个价值就可能特完就升得很高 ，OK， 所以如果是需要上诉的话，就是可以去填这些表格。OK， Sherry, I think there's no more questions. 还有没有谁有问题 ？OK，
Sorry, just very quickly, can we get in the chat the OPA's office location just in case anyone wants to stop by?
Absolutely. We'll put in the chat, but for those that are just listening, we are at the Curtis Building, which is 601 Walnut Street, and we are in Suite 300 West. So you would take the west elevators to the 3rd floor, and we're right there.
We don't hear you.
OK， 也刚才 James 就是Shirley 就是问他这个地址，然后他就是 James 就是说他们是在这个 Curtis 带下里601 Walnut Street 然后是那个房间是300 West， 所以是需要乘这个四边的那个电梯上去，然后找他们的房间的，然后他们的地址也在聊天里边。
Okay, great. Thank you both so much. I think this will really help our community members out a lot. So thank you for all of this information.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I just want to know, James, are you able to share the slides to Sherry? So maybe is it something that we can actually share with the communities, the slides?
I can send Sherry a file that she can share with folks. Sure.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
刚才我就是问他他们的这些资料的话，是不是可以他刚才这些slide PPT 我可不可以分享？他会发给 Sherry， 然后我们会跟大家分享的。Actually, there's a last question, Rowan. After we submit the form, can we track status online later on? Is there a way that they can track the status?
No, there is no real-time tracking of the status. They'll get an acknowledgement letter that it was received, and then they'll get a decision letter when the decision is made, but there is no other tracking that we have for this.
对，他说没有网上可以去看情况的，他们收到表格就会寄信，就一个通知信说收到你们的表格然后之后如果有确认的话，他们就会再寄信通知的，不会在网上的。Okay, I think that's all. Really, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't think that Steve from ECA has joined the call yet, so I am going to reach out to him to see if he can join.
Okay, yes, I will stay here while you're trying to reach him.
Okay, thank you, Ping.
Just want to remind， 就是想提醒大家，如果还没填Sherry 的那个表格的话，麻烦大家先把这个表格先填。Sherry, I think you might want to give me a co-host because I cannot copy anything that you post on the chat. I try to copy the form, but it doesn't work.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. So for the people that signing in late, please complete the form so we know how many people, so we can report back to the city how many people attended these sessions. 就是如果还没登记的话，麻烦大家就是把就是填那个登记表格，这样子我们才可以汇报上去说有多少个人去听这个会议。我 copy 不到薛里的。所以我就把这个长的连接放上去了。大家可以趁着现在这个时间，就是把这个表格填了，因为我们需要数据说这门是有多少个人参加了这个会。
你好，趁着这个时间，我问一点问题。我叫 Emily， 我今天来晚了，我想请问一下，这个住房的 tax relief， 是都可以申请，还是要有一定的什么就是收入以下才可以申请
？OK， Emily， 你等我一下，我看看，我等一下回答你 ，OK， 你等一下啊。
好的，好，谢谢你。我也想请问一下 ，CDVS 是什么意思？哎，我听不到。
哦，现在可以听到吗？
可以听到你的声音。
嗨，我是 Julia，我是来自 CDVS，英文的全称是 Central Division Victim Services， 也就是中央部门受害者服务。那么我们是给在费城遭遇了犯罪的受害者提供免费的服务。我来参加这个会议也是想要更多的参与到中国城的一些社区的会议当中来，因为中国城是我们服务的地区之一。然后据我了解，中国城有很多受害者是并没有去报警，或者是并没有得到他应该得到的服务，或者说根本不知道自己作为受害者有哪些权利。我是 CDVS 新来的讲中文的受害者权益倡导者，所以我会经常参与到中国城的一些活动当中来，和大家能够认识一下。这样如果大家有问题的话，知道有我这么一个人，可以来找到我来获取帮助。
哇，你的中文说的太好了！
谢谢。
你的声音也好好听哎。
那么我会跟Julia联系，就是看看他什么时候，我们可能让他去讲一讲，就是受害者的一些资源。OK Julia 这个我们可能可以 offline 之后我们可以聊。对，谢谢。
我只是好奇那个 CDVS 是什么意思，我没有那方面的问题。
没事。对，
好了，
我就是想回答刚才问的这个问题，就是说这个这些地税减免有什么要求？我可以跟老师说，这些地税减免呢，基本上都是给自己住的房子的。OK 他们就像有一个是宅地豁免，一个是自己住的房子是可以减，现在是把你的房价减8万块钱，然后再计算这个地税的。OK， 所以基本上其实之前是讲4万5，现在因为就是评估高了，很多都评估高了，他们现在是讲8万，然后再算这个地税。这个计划是没有收入限制的，所以主要唯一的要求就是这个房子是自己住的 ，OK， 不是住。
那我是自己的房子哎。
所以你申请过，你自己有没有查过自己有没有申请过？
没有啊，肯定没有申请过，因为我们根本就不知道这个信息。多亏今天听了你们的讲座，才第一次知道这个信息，而且又来晚了。
对，
太谢谢了。
你可以是打电话过来我们公司215-922-6156，我的同事是有去帮忙去做这些的。
麻烦你再跟我说一下。
对，我现在把它放上去，215-922-6156，OK。
21592265156。那么我请问我找哪一位呢？
你打过来说你需要一些地税的这个补助，你就是把你的问题问出来，我的同事会告诉你怎么可以得到这些。我们因为也有关别去看看还有没有其他东西是可以申请的，你打过来，我前台同事就可以回答了。
太棒了，谢谢你。你是平是吗？
我是平，对。
谢谢你平。好的，我不占用大家时间了。
Okay, 没事。Okay, so I just answered the question. So I saw Steve is up. Shirley, you want to take on?
Yes, okay. Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Thank you for joining our meeting.
Sure.
So now we have Steve Buxton from Energy Coordinating Agency, and he will speak about weatherization programs.
Steve, let me translate. You and I have been working together, so you know.
This is my 3rd or 4th year working with you on these. I love it.
Yes. 我就是现在我们就是交给 Steve Luston 对，他是从这个能源协调机构他们过来是讲一些这个能源怎么就是有效的能源去把这个房子就是弄得更好的。Okay, yes, Steve, go ahead.
Okay. So are you seeing the full screen? I just want to make sure everything looks okay.
Right now, I think you're not in the presentation mode. I think you're in your PPT.
Okay.
So if you go down to the bottom right, there's a little next to the Zoom thing, bottom right. Under ECA, there's a little icon. Yes, no, the one on the right. Yes, yep, that's presentation.
Oh, all these years, I never knew that was. Thank you.
You're all good now.
All right. All right. So ECA is a 38-year-old nonprofit that provides different services, multiple services to folks in Philadelphia. Of course, weatherization, which is what I will be talking about today, but I always like to mention the other services that we provide.
Okay, stop right there. Stop right there.
Okay.
OK 他们是能源协调机构了，他们已经在费城是38年的，他们是一个非牟利的机构，他们提供多种不同的服务。Steve 等一下主要是讲这个风化，基本上就是有效能源的这些计划，然后他们当然还有其他的计划，他想提一提。Yep.
Okay. ECA also provides the Philadelphia's heater hotline, which is a heating system repair program for homeowners only that are income eligible in the city of Philadelphia.
然后他们呢有提供一个说暖气业限电话，这个电话是有一个计划，就是去收这些暖气的系统去维修的他们主要是给这些房主，就是收入合资格的房主的。
And energy assistance is provided through our 16 neighborhood energy centers that are located throughout the city. And in fact, PCDC is one of probably our top neighborhood energy centers, according to Ms. Lorraine. So folks are encouraged to go to the neighborhood energy center because they can learn how to save energy and apply for programs that will assist them with many different things throughout the city.
然后他们也是主要是他们下边有16个这个能源这是伦理能源中心然后 PCDC 他们其中一个，然后他根据他的同事说，我们 PCDC 他们是一个比较最好的其中一个最好的机构就是鼓励大家可以去这些中心去学怎么去省能源，然后怎么去申请一些就是补助的计划。
Thank you. Out of curiosity, are these translations accurate or are they not the right?
Yeah, I think they are pretty accurate, but it's just like the weatherization is a really hard word to translate.
Yeah.
And the two Chinese words on the screen, it doesn't make sense. People just don't understand. It's not. the ground level. So we actually been talking about that. I'll send you the wording that we come up with.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I knew it looked, boy, that's awfully short. I don't think that's right, but
Yeah, but this is, I mean, this is good enough. And let me let people know. 他刚才就是问他上面的中文怎么样，翻译的怎么样。其实我就是跟大家说，第一年是没翻译，第二年、第三年他们就自己找人去翻译这些他们给的资源，所以他们真的为了我们中国人是，就是去把这些他们自己去找人去翻译，没有找我们的。OK， 他就问这些翻译成怎么样？我说大部分的都翻译都很好，可是除了这个 weatherization 风化，可能有很多人不太明白这个字是怎么样。我们自己内部 PCDC 也聊了很多时候，就是说这个是怎么翻呢？所以我等一下我们找到有几个字所以我之后会发给他的。OK， Steve, you can go ahead.
okay. And lastly, ECA also provides at our location in West Kensington a 28,000 square foot green energy training center. And it's designed for folks that aren't going to college or maybe have gone to college and are still looking for a meaningful trade or occupation. We provide green energy workforce development. So if anybody has somebody who, they don't have to be a student. I mean, excuse me, they don't have to be, you know, a teenager at a high school or, you know, somebody young. It can be somebody in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s that maybe wants to learn a green energy skill such as solar PV, working on heat pumps, weatherization, of course.
他就是说他们一些呀，在这个西边的这个 Kensington， 他们有一个2800这个平方尺的这个就是训练中心专门就是提供一些训练，就是特别有一些年轻人不管是年轻人可能是没有去上大学的，就是想做一些技工还是说如果就算是上大学了，可是想找一个更有意义的工作他们就是会不一定是说青少年也可以，30、40、50、60岁都可以了，就想学习怎么这个绿化能源的 OK 他们就是有些可能是这个太阳能有可能是电子这个pump然后还可能是怎么把房子去密封，可以更有效的用这些能源，他们这些都会提供这些培训的。Yeah.
Okay. So that's enough about me bragging about ECA or informing everybody. So let me get down to business here, and we'll talk about where the energy goes in your home. Now these are averages, so they don't necessarily apply to everybody, but the takeaway from this slide is that about 50 to 60% on average of the home's total energy consumption goes towards really one or two things: heating and cooling.
OK， 他就是说他说刚才他说很多关于他 ECA 是做干嘛的现在就是回归这个正题了。他就是现在这个上面说的就是说大部分的人员在家里坐诊是去哪里的，就是平均来讲的话，不是说每一个人都一定是的。他就是说从这一个里边呢就看到了大概50到60的人员 OK， 总共的人员通常都是去了这个能源系统。
And the other areas of where your costs are relatively light compared to heating and cooling. For example, one refrigerator and one freezer in a home take up about 5% of the energy costs in the home. So that's pretty light. Lighting is only 5%. People act like it's almost all the bill, but the reality is lighting is just a small percentage of the energy bill. The next biggest, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. Yeah. 然后就是反面来说了 OK， 有些用的比较小了，就像这个冰箱这个冰柜然后就可能是灯这些就只是用了5%，就是对比其他来讲的话，这个就是比较小的。Yep, go ahead, Steve.
Okay. After heating and cooling, typically the two largest additional energy costs are heating the water no matter whether you use natural gas or electric or oil. It's still a fairly large cost. That's because it's year round. And well, I'll let you say that one, then I'll go on to the last one.
他说除了冷暖气之外 ，OK， 另外最大的，另外有2个最大的就是用的最多了第一个就是说这个把这个热水 ，OK， 就是把水热了 ，OK， 不管你是用煤气、电力还是油 ，OK， 这个都是比较用这个能源都是能源还有用钱是比较多的。
And lastly, the additional segment, 17%, is what we call behavior. So that really comes down to you and me and the people in your home. The way we manage our heating and cooling with the thermostat, how long we leave lights on, even though that cost is captured there. It's our behavior that makes up anywhere from 10 to 20% of the bill. How we use or abuse energy.
然后呢，之后还有就是那个其他14% 是什么呢？这个是我们的人的这个行为就是说你跟我在家里是怎么用这些电，怎么去管理这些用电的这些东西啦就这样说你这个灯把它就是开了多久啦 ？OK， 冷暖气什么时候高还是低啦？所以这个是在大概是10到20% 是用了这个在账单里面的，就是我们的行为。
Okay. So to get into things that you can do to your home to save energy, I've been in this industry, residential energy efficiency. I'm an energy engineer for almost 30 years. And when I talk to people about this, you can just paraphrase this. When I talk to folks, like if you just had one wish to make your bills lower and your comfort higher, what would that be? And then everybody, 9 times out of 10, in my experience, people say, oh, new windows.
OK， 他刚才就是说了，那么就是你怎么可以在家里可以去省这些能源呢？他说他在这一个就是关于这些能源方面的，他以前是这个能源工程师来的，都已经有30年了就是他以前有问过这些人，如果你要做一样东西去帮你省能源的话，你会做什么？很多人都说我要把窗子换了，我要换新的窗子。
But the reality is windows actually are the least cost-effective measure that you can install in a home. That's not to say, you shouldn't put them in, but the money that you put out for windows takes the longest to come back in the form of energy savings. So I usually suggest to people that if they are thinking about windows, to put it at the bottom of your list. If you've got money left over, then maybe consider new windows. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
他说其实仓库里边呢是在这个墙的系统里边是最不要的 OK 他说新的仓库呀不一定说可以解决这个问题他还有说这个你把这个钱用来换这个新枪的话呢然后你每一年去省的这个钱是很难可以回来的是需要很长的时间才可以回来的所以他的建议是如果你有考虑去换枪的话就是想把这个能源省的话你就把这个换枪是放在你的单子里边最底的最后一样需要去做了
So now the reason why I say that is because windows are at the same time the key area where energy is lost or gained. For instance, in the heating season, the heat that's in your room is doing everything it can to go through the windows. And in the summertime, the outside solar heat is doing everything it can to get into the house. And the easiest way for it to do it is the windows. So you would think that windows must be why is Steve saying they're not cost effective? It's because there really isn't anything better on the market with what you're going to replace your existing windows with. They may look nicer, they may be less maintenance, and maybe some other features, easy to open and so on. But the reality is, from an energy performance perspective, they are basically, new windows are almost essentially what you've already got in your house if you have a double pane window. So that's the reason why I'm saying don't be in a hurry to replace your windows.
OK， 他说了，很多人就是看到这个枪只是最主要的这个，就是这个这个冷暖气可以跑出去的，就当一个你要把这个房间就是这个暖气开了 ，OK， 然后这个暖气会用尽所有的可能就去跑出去的，就是从这个仓库跑出去了，所以很多人想呢就是这个仓库的，可是其实可是他会说。这个为什么这个枪子呀不一定说真的这个可以省钱，有效的去省钱的，只是枪子可能是看上去比较漂亮比较好，也可能不需要做什么东西 ，OK。可是从他们的能源这个有效就是用度方面来说的话，这个换枪子不一定达到这个这个省能源省钱的。
So now here's what, if you are looking at buying new windows or having windows put in, they will increase thermal performance by as much as 50%, which sounds entirely contradictory to what I just said. But what that really means is that if your current windows are R2, which is a very meager rating for that product's ability to resist heat. I apologize, Bing, if this is a little wordy here.
That's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah， 他就是说有一些新的仓库是可以提供这个液冷性是提供50% 的，那么跟刚才他说的是为什么是相反呢？他说有可能这个枪子原来就是非常的这个有问题的 ，OK， 所以这个新的仓库是当然是可以提供就是这个液冷性可以提高。
New windows are about R3 to R5, so that's why I say you can increase your performance, the Windows performance, if you get new ones by 50%. But really, that 50% is very, very negligible. And if you figured out what the savings are with that new window that you've just paid, let's say $500 installed, it'll take about 15 to 20 years to pay it back.
就是说，他就是说，如果你这个新枪子就是要付500块钱去安装的话，他可能需要15到20年才可以，就是省的这些钱才可以回来的。
Okay, so the best thing you can do, because Windows, I've already stated that they are really the weakest link in the room. The best way to fix them is to deal with them. Caulking. When it's cold outside and there's no sunlight, which means you can take advantage when the sun's out, even in the wintertime, that sun that's coming through your window actually provides a certain amount of heat in that room. So there is a benefit to having a window, but as soon as the sun isn't shining, whether it's a cloudy day or it's nighttime, the best thing that you could actually do is to pull curtains over that window. That will stop, believe it or not, the energy loss.
他就是说，其实可以用一小部分的钱 ，OK， 去改善这个窗口的，就像可以说，就是放一些窗口胶然后就是要看看有没有这个阳光 ，OK， 就是如果你是想房子是比较冷一点的话 ，OK， 不管你这个新窗还是旧的窗 ，OK， 如果是有这个太阳的照进来的话，你家里就是比较暖的，所以就没办法冷下来。所以如果你是这样子的话，又有太阳的时候，你想房子是比较冷的话，你就要把这个窗户的这个窗帘就是拉起来，这样子的话，这个太阳光晒不到的话，你的房子里面就比较冷的。
Okay. So, and if your windows are fine, to the best of your knowledge, then a couple of things that I've noted as a weatherization guy is that a lot of times people will complain about a draft coming from the window, particularly if they're in an older row home, for example. and I'll look at the window and I'll find that maybe the upper part of the window wasn't fully closed. There's just a small gap that you can't see, or it's tough to get the window up, but that's the problem. And some folks don't really look at their windows. So just make sure that the windows once it gets cold out, make sure the windows are pushed up as far as they can go and that you can actually lock the window. That'll make sure that it's as tight as that window can possibly get.
OK， 然后有些人就是说，我窗子很多风进来呀，很多时候这些是旧的这些房子来的 ，OK， 有时候就是要看一看这个窗子是不是完全是关了 ，OK， 然后会不会有一些很小的这个空荡的地方是没有关实的，有些有可能是看不到。可是这个其实就是这个问题来的，所以要确保你把这个窗子是真的完全是关了，关到最上面的，还是最下边的。
Another thing that can be done is if a home has been properly designed, under every window, there should be either a vent or a grill to allow warm air to come up, or if you're in an older home that has radiators and baseboards, the baseboard or the radiator should be under the window. That's by design to deal with the coldness. So you want to make sure that that register or that radiator or baseboard unit is not obstructed, because then you're sort of negating the heat contribution from those heat sources. So there's little things that you can do that can improve heat if there's a comfort issue in that room.
OK， 然后他就是说，其实如果这个房子是thiết置，就是这个弄这个房子的时候是thiết置的好的话，很多时候窗子下边是有这个暖气口的，通风口出来的，就是让这些暖气是可以上来的。如果是那些用水的那些这个就叫 radiator 还是 baseboard 这块，这是另外一种的，他们也是应该是在窗子下边的，所以要确保这些风口是没有去被挡住要没有这个这样子的话才可以达到这个暖气上来的。
Now for homes that have windows that face south and southwest, where in the summertime and the spring and in parts of the fall where the sun actually provides too much heat, it can actually cause overheating, with the sun coming right through it. You could either, again, close the curtain, or more recently, there's a window film, which I'll have a picture of in the next slide, that can actually be applied to the window from the interior, from indoors. And that film actually cuts down on the solar gain. It actually sort of blocks the sun from getting into your house and causing that too much heat issue that can happen in the summertime.
然后他就是说，如果这个窗子是向着这个南方还是西南方的话呢，在暑假的时候呢，这个太阳就是进来的话，提供太多这个热能了 ，OK， 所以这个房子就非常热。所以他说，除了这个可以把这个窗帘是关闭之外了，它也有一种是就是这个窗子的这个布 ，OK， 有一种是这个是一个叫什么呢就是一个可能就是可以封窗口的 ，OK， 就是从里边把这个窗子封的话呢，这样子就令到这个太阳就是不会拿太多的太阳进来这个房子令到太多的热的空气在房间里边。
And lastly, window kits, which you can buy at a Home Depot or Lowe's or a hardware store or even Target and any big box store for that matter. They actually do work. So for folks that don't want a new window, can't afford a new window, and the window for some reason just has drafts in it. These window kits, which are designed for homeowners, do-it-yourself folks can install it. They're actually very, very effective. In fact, they are as effective as installing a new window, believe it or not.
然后还有一些窗户的零件，就是套件，这个是其实 Home Depot 其实就是这个都可以买到了，就是如果安装的正确的话呢，它这个也是非常有效的去省能源的。
So here's the window film. You can actually buy this now from, say, Home Depot again, or a big box store, Lowe's. And it's a clear film. You can see through it, but it's applied to the window and it sticks. And that's so you don't really need to hire somebody. You can to install it, but if you're fairly handy, you can actually apply this film. Again, we're talking about windows that get too much sun through them. You can actually apply the film yourself, and the payback is if you do air conditioning in your house, that the film will probably offset your air conditioning costs enough to cover the cost of the window film. And then going forward, you are saving energy on your air conditioning bill as a result.
它就是说，就像现在屏幕上呢，这个就是 window film， 就是说这个枪模 ，OK， 可能我发音不标准了，就是像一个模的放在可以它就是在 Home Depot Lowe's 这些都可以，是可以看去的，看去的，这些是给哪些？就是防止太多太阳了，然后这个防止太热了。OK， 如果你把这个安装上去的话呢，就可以令到你的空调可以更省能源了，就不用经常去再冷嘛。OK， 然后就可以省能源省钱的。
And another way to save energy, this can be in the summertime, but it's more effective when it's actually cold outside, is just putting heavy curtains, not light see-through or what we call sheer curtains, but heavy-duty curtains, which are actually sold as energy efficiency curtains today, are highly effective as well. They stop the heat from going through the window, especially if they're fully closed. So, and also they can be decorative, as you can see in these pictures.
然后他就说，还有就是可能这个是比较就是比冷天的时候比较有用的，这些要比较重的窗帘，就是把它安装的话呢，这个冷气都没办法跑出去，就是令到你房间就是比较冷空气进不来的话，你这个就比较省能源。这个主要是给冷天的时候的。外面现在就是说这些窗帘就是比较省能源的窗帘来的。Yep.
Okay. So now I'm going to go through, I'll stop talking about windows. I know it sounds like this guy's obsessed with windows, but there's a method to my madness because, again, people without anybody really telling them who's knowledgeable don't buy windows. So that's the reason why I spend a lot of time talking about windows.
他就是说他现在说可能等一下不讲枪了，他说可能你们听了太多这个枪的问题，他们就以为这个人是非常非常喜欢讲枪的可是他就是等一下他会讲一些其他的。
So I'm going to list the 10 most cost-effective things that anybody can do to their home to, again, lower their bills and at the same time, hopefully increase their comfort. That's really our goal in Weatherization, is that inverse relationship between lower energy bills and higher comfort. So the first thing is sealing any gaps that are in the walls from the inside. Don't worry about the outside so much. All of this takes place on the inside or the interior. Sealing the large gaps with caulk or foam to prevent air from getting in or coming into the house or getting out of the house, excuse me.
OK， 他就是说其实个目标就是说，期望把账单可以就是省能源，就是减轻这个账单，然后也就是提供就是这个舒服，家里就是更舒服了，这个是最主要的目标。这个就是这个有效能源化了，就是这个目标来的。他说主要有10样东西是非常省钱的有效的可以去做。第一样 ，so just want to make sure is it sealing the gap on exterior wall or interior walls?
Interior walls. You can do the exterior, but the most effective way to stop air from getting in and getting out is to seal interior leaks.
Okay, yeah, because on the slide you say exterior wall, so just
it does. That's why I corrected myself there.
Okay. OK， 他就说第一样呢，就是说把密封 ，OK， 你的墙啊，主要它上面写的是外墙，可是是可以就是里边的墙 ，OK， 就是用一些东西，就是可以用玻璃胶啊，还是有一些喷出来是好像泡沫的 ，OK， 就把这个洞，这墙里边墙的有什么洞 ，OK， 还是就把它去密封的。
If possible, if you live in a home that doesn't have central air conditioning and you rely on window air conditioners, of course, ideally, once it gets cold out, you want to remove the air conditioner. Many people do leave them in, usually because they're heavy, and you might not. Some folks may not have anywhere to store them, but ideally, we strongly encourage folks to take those air conditioners out because they lose a tremendous amount of energy in the heating season.
OK， 然后呢，就是如果有这些仓库式的这个冷气的话呢，他建议如果可能的话，就冷天的时候把这些仓库式的这个冷气，就是把它拿出来，就把这个窗关了。OK 有很多人的就是可能太重啊，还是说没地方放啊，所以就让这个窗口式的这个冷气放在窗口上面。可是通常这个是会损失很多的能源流量出去的。
And if it's not possible to remove the air conditioner, then we recommend that they be sealed up from the inside, again, from the interior. There are actual room air conditioner kits that you can actually buy, and it's all designed for the interior. You can actually put this vinyl cover over an air conditioner to stop the air. It's the fact that the air conditioner allows air to move through it. Or I've seen people just with duct tape and plastic just seal it up. But the bottom line is that try to seal the air conditioner to make them windproof.
然后呢，如果是没办法把它移走的话呢，你就是要把它密封，就是用一些没办法那些风进不来出不去的这些材料去把它密封了。有些人可能是用一些 duct tape 啊，就是胶布还是用一些毛巾啊，就是找一些东西是可以把它完全密封的。
If you are in a home where you do have access to a basement or a crawl space or wherever there is ductwork, it's recommended that if you see any gaps in your ductwork, which is not uncommon, believe it or not, buying real duct tape, which is a foil tape, and sealing those gaps is also highly effective and very little cost.
然后还有就是有一些管道系统是也是有这个就是有一个东西就是轰的洞的，你是需要去也是把它密封，你可能要买一些胶带去把它们密封起来的。
And I've mentioned this before, make sure any vent or grill or radiator, etc., is free and unobstructed. So the heat that they deliver isn't sort of captured or prevented from getting into the air and inside that room. Sounds like it's very common sense, but I can't tell you how many homes I've been in where the homeowner complains that the room doesn't get enough heat. And then I can't even find the register because there's a bed on top of it or a dresser or something. So just if at all possible, make sure that heat receptors can deliver their heat.
然后刚才他也说了 ，OK， 就是要确保这些通风口这些是没有被挡住了 ，OK。他见到很多人的就是因为挡住，所以这个东西就过不了这个所以就是希望大家就是去把这些，如果这个叫什么 heat receptor， 哎，等一下。
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, 1 second. 就是这个就是受热的这些地方，就是可以把这些冷气去放出来。如果被挡住的话，这些就出不来，就没这个就增加这个能源了。Yep.
And if you live in a multi-story home, make sure all the windows on the second, and if there's a third floor, if there's a fourth floor, same thing. Just make sure all windows on the upper floors are completely closed. Again, what we find in older homes is that all that heat that's in the house all rises up in the house. It follows the stairwell, and all the heat that's produced on the first floor, on the second floor, and the third floor, all of it rises up and accumulates in the highest floor ceiling. And the worst thing you can do is have an open window, because of the fact that it does get hotter. Because once you open that window, or if the window's left cracked, as they generally that's the term they use, that once that heat gets out, it's going to continue to pull more heat up to it. So it's important to make sure every window is completely sealed on all floors during the heating season, or during the winter.
然后就是要确保你如果你这一个房子是有几层的话，要确保第二、第三层就是1楼以上的这些窗户都是完全是关闭的 ，OK？ 因为这些冷空气是会跟着楼梯去散去的，会上升的，它跟着楼梯散去2楼、3楼，然后到最顶的时候、最高的时候，它就会聚在一起。所以如果你是刚好有一个窗子是开的话呢，它就会在哪里去，就是会跑出去的。然后一有这个冷空气，就是有空气拉出去的话，它就会把其他的冷的空气都拉出去的。
Again, this sounds like common sense, but common sense isn't so common. When it's really cold outside, make sure that you dress appropriately inside. In other words, wear long sleeve tops. In other words, don't dress like it's summertime inside, because you'll just turn up the heat to compensate for that. Dress appropriately for the particular season.
然后呢，其实现在刚才讲的那个也是就是一个尝试吧 ，OK， 很多人都应该要做了，可是有很多人以为是平常都是做的时候，不是很多人去做的。就这样他现在第6点就是说，你要根据空气就是这个纬度去穿着是合适的去穿着就这样你不可以就可能是冷天的时候就是穿长袖吧。不要说我已经开了冷气，我就穿短袖，可是外面是冷天来的 ，OK？ 有时候就因为我把这个冷气开高一点，我就可以穿短袖了，这个其实是不对的。
Now I'm going to skip the last 4 because I put them on another slide, but for some reason I lost them. Just bear with me here, just for a second. There it is. Okay. So disregard the 10 most cost-effective things. The 7th thing that you can do without really spending any money, but can significantly reduce your energy bills, is lowering your thermostat by as much as 5 degrees and maybe as high as 8 degrees when you're sleeping, or you're going out of your home and you know you'll be out for at least an hour. Turn that thermostat down. Don't turn it off. Usually that's not a good idea, but turn it back at least 5 to 8 degrees.
他就是说 ，OK， 一个冷天的时候，把你的这个温度，就是把它调低5到8度，就是在你睡觉的时候，还是不在家的时候，把它调低5到8度，最少就是1个小时以上。OK， 因为它这一个是非常，就第一不费钱的，第二非常有效的。
If you've ever been in any of my presentations, I talk a lot about ceiling fans because they're highly effective at not only creating increased comfort in a home, but also they're very energy efficient because they don't really use very little energy. And if they can make your heating or your cooling more effective, then the cost of using the ceiling fan is offset by the savings in your heating when you run your heating system or your air conditioning system.
OK， 然后呢，他说他其他的他都是有讲的，以前有讲过的，就是说怎么去增加这个舒适度了，就是说他非常强烈建议用这个 ceiling fan， 就是屋顶这个叫什么那个扇 ，OK， 在这个天花板的这个扇 ，OK， 风扇 ，OK， 就是把它因为这一个是可以，他们其实用非常非常小的能源的，可是它会令这个冷暖系统更有效的，它会把这些冷暖气可以慢慢的让它去动的。OK， 虽然他们会用一点能源，可是这些能源是足够就是你省的会更多。
So, for example, they recommend during the heating season using a ceiling fan, which is counterintuitive to most of us. Why would you ever use a fan when it's not summertime? Well, actually, it's a ceiling fan. And what it does is it pushes the heat that you can't see, but it's hugging your ceiling. And the ceiling fan pushes it down. So it will do that if you have your fan going in a clockwise direction for the heating season, clockwise.
OK， 然后他就是举个例子吧，就像冷天的时候啦，你如果是要开暖气的时候，他就是建议就是用这个天花的风扇去慢慢的去就是顺时针的去转动，它不需要太快。因为为什么呢？因为这个冷空气就是聚在这个天花上面不动的。可是如果你这个风扇在转动的时候，就把这些暖气把它退下来，这样子你这个暖气就会在家里去走动的。OK， yeah.
This is very important. If you have any type of machine, a heating system, an air conditioning system, it's very, very important to make sure the filter is always clean and unobstructed. They cost very little and they can significantly increase the cost of heating or cooling when you have a clogged filter, because basically they're preventing the air from going through. So a new filter, you can buy one, a simple one, which is all I recommend people buy, just simple filters for their furnaces. Might cost $2 or $1. Make sure about every 3 months you look at it and change it or clean it as necessary.
OK， 然后呢，还有非常重要就是去检查换这个过滤器。如果你家里是有冷暖气系统的话，这个过滤器、空气过滤器是非常重要的因为这个过滤器就是会就是如果就是没有清洁、没有换的话，它会阻止这些空气去经过。OK， 他建议就是买一些比较简单的，可能2块钱、1块钱就可以买到了。就是去可能每3个月去看一次，看看是需要清洁，就是把它弄干净，还是需要去换。
And lastly, only for homes that have radiators or baseboard heat, invariably these devices do get air trapped in them. The air comes out of the water and starts to stop the hot water from traveling through the radiators. So they're supposed to be what we call bled, which means there's a little valve that you turn and you can hear the air hissing, and that air needs to be taken out in order for that water to fully envelop or fill the interior of the radiator or the baseboard. So every year radiators should be bled, and I've got a couple of examples to show folks how you can do that.
然后呢，还有一种是这个是只是给哪些是用热水的，有一些是要 radiator 还是 baseboard， 他们是用热水去把这个去流动，然后去热这个保暖这个房子的 ，OK， 就是这些他们有一个叫放气，就是说要把有一个小小的转动的，就是把气放出来，然后它这个就可以这些水就会流动的。它等一下会有一些图片是关于这些 这些这个散热器的。
So most of these 10 cost-effective recommendations that I've just gone through, for the most part, they really don't cost anything at all, yet they can significantly lower your energy bill, particularly number 7. Just setting back your thermostat by 5 to 8 degrees can be as much as 15 to 20% savings on your energy bill. And that doesn't cost anything. It's just a behavioral thing that that we can train ourselves to do.
然后他说他现在说了这10样大部分都是不需要你费钱的 ，OK， 可是它是非常非常有效的去省能源、省钱的尤其是第7样，就是说把你的这个温度调低5到8度的话呢，这个可以省到15到20% 的这个单费用的。
So now I'm just going of the 10 tips. I'm going to show you what I actually mean.
他说刚才他说了10个，所以他现在就是让大家看一看怎么做。
So that first slide where I said exterior cracks, and it should have been interior cracks. This is what I'm talking about. This is very common, even in well-built homes, but it looks like something you wouldn't really pay any attention to. But when we run blower doors, when we do weatherization, we find that this gap here is very strong. So the picture on the right shows just a simple can of caulk that can be bought again at the big box store, and how it can seal up a gap, and probably within a couple of weeks, sealing up that gap would pay for the cost of that 1 can of caulk. That's how effective sealing indoor cracks can be.
然后它就是有些图片，就是说这个降灰，这个就是这个中间这个腔子，你看它左边的有一个烘位的 ，OK， 就是腔子这个玻璃胶可能之前弄的都已经没有了，它的意思就是说你要可能再重新再弄一遍就是把这个烘间就是把它去完全密封的。
These are the room air conditioners that I talked about. So if the unit on the left-hand side, if that can't come out or folks just have to leave it in, then the pictures on the right show you what can be done. Now, you can buy covers for the outside as well, but if you're on a 2-story, 3-story house, that might be very risky or impossible to put it on. But the bottom picture shows you a quilted AC cover that's highly effective and pretty much stops any type of air loss and energy loss.
OK， 然后他就是说，刚才说了这个窗口式的这个冷气的话呢，如果当然了可以的话，把它拿出来。如果拿不出来的话，是有一些套子是可以买来去套着它了。刚才右手边最上面的这个图片呢，如果你是第2楼、第3楼去把这个套子放在外面的话，可能比较危险。可是它也有一些是在里边的，就像好像被子一样的，就是比较厚的，就可以放在里边的。
I also recommended sealing up ducts if the home has ducting and you have access to it. The first thing to do is to inspect it with a flashlight and just look for gaps like you see here. That looks like just a little crack, no problems, but over years, that can be hundreds of dollars of energy waste. And all you have to do is buy this product here, air duct sealant or duct sealing tape, and just apply it over that gap, as you can see here. Same thing here, when you see that seam, if you put your hand on it, you can feel air. You can take this tape and just wrap the foil tape around it. You don't need to hire a professional to do that. It's pretty simple, and it's highly cost effective.
然后他就是说，刚才也说的这管道可能有裂缝吧，所以他就将上面的最左上角的哪一个，你看它很小很小，也不是很大，可是如果经过很多年之后了，有可能这个也是好几百块钱的 ，OK， 所以你就可以买右手边的这个 air duct sealant， 就是好像一些就是可以把它密封的。 然后就像下边那个冷气这个管道了，你就是把手放进去看看，感觉有没有风出来。如果有的话，就用右下角这个就是这个胶布把它就是卷起来。这些也不需要说找装修工人去做，自己也是可以做的。
Just a reminder, one of the biggest misconceptions is that duct tape, as we call it, that silver gray tape that you can buy at a store for $1 or $2. Even though it's called duct tape, it's not to be used on ducts. As you can see here, this is what happens to it. They detected air leakage here and they put duct tape on it, and just after a couple of years, it delaminates or it loses its stickiness, and it's just a waste of time, waste of money. So there's a special type of tape, and it actually says HVAC duct sealing tape, as opposed to this cheap, much cheaper tape. That shouldn't be used. Guys love it. We use it for everything. We can fix a car with it. We can fix a broken stick with it. But what we shouldn't do is fix a leaky duct with it.
然后他说非常重要，刚才就是说这些胶带，你不可以用平时用的这些胶带了，就这样左手边他打了一个叉了，不可以用，最好不要用这些，因为你看到右手边了，用这个之后它就那个没有粘性了，就是很容易就掉了，就浪费时间，也要重新再做了。他们是有一种特别的这个胶带，是专门是这些AC 的这些管道的这些胶布的，所以你去买这个，说很多人都喜欢用这些普通的 duct tape， 可是这些胶带是其他的可以用，可是不要用来这个管道的这个密封。
And as I also mentioned, make sure that your vents and grills and registers and radiators and baseboard units, everything that provides heat, is unobstructed, as you can see here, as opposed to here, sitting underneath a chair. So this doesn't cost anything, but it can make a big difference in how much heating and cooling you get in a room when these vents are completely free and open.
然后你看到这里，刚才也说了，你不要挡着这些风口，就这样上图这样子看了，就是一个 sofa 就挡着这个管道，这个通风口了 ，OK 就是看看右手边这个就是没有挡住的，这里也不费钱，只是把它移走的话呢，这个就是可以让这个更有效的这个能源的。
Just a couple of examples here. This window here. This is a window that wasn't fully closed, and this is what it looks like. What we call the top rail of the bottom sash and the bottom rail of the upper sash, they should be level or flush. You can see this one's slightly lower, which means that if you could see this window at the top, it's probably got the equivalent gap, maybe a 1/4 inch, which people don't pay any attention to, but actually that 1/4 inch tends to create heat loss. So it's important to make sure these windows are sealed at the top and at the bottom.
就是刚才也说了，有些窗户没有密封，因为你没有把它就是推到正头，就像这里你看呢，就是上面跟下边的这个窗子它是不是平的？你看到里边的窗子好像就比较低一点了，所以有可能上面是没有推到最上边，通常这些都是平的。OK， 两个窗口推到正的话，就是这个中间是应该平的，所以这个就可能上面可能有不够这个1/4寸吧，可是也有可能这个暖气是非常不断的流出去的。
And dressing appropriately for the season. Obviously, you don't have to wear a winter coat. You don't have to dress like it's inside during the winter, but just dressing. Again, appropriate meaning that you're not wearing shorts and tank tops and so on during the summer, unless cold doesn't bother you. But for most folks, just dressing appropriately allows you to raise the temperature on your thermostat setting by maybe 1 or 2 degrees, which adds up over the course of the winter. So, some people think because they got heat inside, they can run around in t-shirts and so on. But their temperature on the thermostat is set higher because of that. So, just simple, common sense energy tip, dress appropriately for the season.
然后说就是说，当然呢，冷天的时候不是说叫你穿着这些大衣 ，OK， 可是就是根据天气来说的话了就是可能就是冷天的时候还是穿了可能长袖衣服当然不需要穿的这个带外套这样子，因为这里就是然后你就可以把温度不用调到那么低就是这么高的时候了，你整个能源就可以省下来的。
This is again, this is a highly cost-effective tip. Setting the thermostat back. If you're going out of the house for more than an hour or two, it's well worth it to set it back 3, 5, 8 degrees. But most importantly, when you're sleeping, when you're not going to feel that cooler temperature, I recommend 5 degrees to set it back. I discourage people from just shutting it off because then you're going to use a lot of energy when you're back up again to get that house up to heat. And so you're pretty much washed out all of your savings. But 3 to 5 degrees for at least for 8 hours while you sleep has probably the biggest opportunity for saving money on your energy bill.
然后的刚才也说到了，就是去上街还是睡觉的时候，就是用这个可以偏晴的这个恒温器，就是把它这个温度降低的 ，OK， 它就是说可以降低几度就可以了，就是如果有多过八个小时左右的话，可以省到1到3% 的这个账单费用他不建议，强力不建议说把这个能源系统关了，因为你关了之后，你要再开的能源用度是更高的，所以你之前关了省的这个就基本上也是没省。
And low speed clockwise direction of a ceiling fan will push the heat down that's hugging your ceiling. So this is just an example, an illustration of how the fan actually does that by creating a convective loop.
然后这个就是刚才说了，这个天花的风扇 ，OK， 它基本上就是旁边有一个图，就是说它怎么样去把这些空气，就是停下来的空气，去把它去转动起来。
Again, here's a filter. The one on the bottom is what a dirty clogged filter looks like. You can see that there's no air getting through that at all. And it might cost, like I said, $1, $2 possibly. And it probably costs about $20, $30, $40 in wasted energy, all for the lack of just not inspecting it every 3 months or so and replacing it as necessary. This is what a new clean filter should look like.
然后这里就是说上面是比较干净的，下边这个就是我们说的很脏的，然后被堵的空气是完全过不了的，这些过滤器、空气过滤器，所以他的建议就是说去用几块钱去买一个新的，就这样子这个就更好。
And while we're talking about filters, another thing that I see a lot of homeowners doing are buying these super thick air filters for their furnaces that are designed to, take allergens out of the air and so on. They also decrease the efficiency of your heating or your cooling system, because again, the simple fact is that air really has to be pushed to get through that heavy duty filter. So I generally discourage folks from buying these thick corrugated filters unless there's a real bad allergy problem in the house. And then there's other ways to treat that with air purifiers and so on, as opposed to buying a filter that's just going to decrease the efficiency of your furnace.
然后他也是就是讲这个空气过滤器了，他是反对去买这些比较非常非常重的，有些就是说外面说这个就是防止这个allergy 的 ，OK 敏感的 ，OK 这些空气过滤器是就是防止这个敏感的，可是问题是因为太厚太重的话了，他们是把这个 就是没有那么有效，这个空气要很用力的才可以过去这些过滤器的，所以这样子就感觉这个就没办法有效的去省能源。如果你说除非这个人真的非常非常有这个敏感的问题的话，其实也有其他东西是可以帮忙的，就像这个空气就是过滤器，就是清净器吧。OK 这些就是可以去帮忙的。
And lastly, bleeding irradiators. So this is what it would look like. That valve that you can see right here, there's a key, little device that is put inside it right here, and it opens it up and water will come out. Well, actually air will probably blow out first, but as soon as water comes out, then shut it off immediately. That means that all the air has been taken out of these fins and it's pure heat now instead of just air that's been trapped. Likewise, on this baseboard convector, this valve here, there's a key that goes with it that will open up that valve. And again, you bleed the air out of it. So it's nothing but full of water as opposed to air.
然后呢，它还有这个刚才说了这个排气的散热器 ，OK， 它就是刚才指着这上面那个王氏桶上面有一个小小的，就是把它转一下的话，这个空气会出来，因为这个东西里边有空气有热水，这个空气出来了，然后当开始有热水的时候，就可以把它关掉。这样子里边就把所有气都排出来了，然后里边就是热水就可以有效的去暖这个家。然后右手边的这个也是一个板子的，也是旁边有一个小小的，就是把它就是转动的话，就把这个气放出来，这样子就可以更有效了。
This is more of a health and safety tip, but I always like to make sure that people are aware that space heaters are extremely expensive to operate. This oil-filled radiator, when it's plugged in and it's going at full tilt, full heat, uses about a kilowatt hour and a half, which basically translates to right now at PECO's electric rate, about 25 cents an hour, every hour that these are on. So just 4 hours, you pretty much used about $1 worth of energy. So I discourage using these things. And another issue is that they can overheat. So never plug one of these into a strip like that because it'll get too much heat. And I've seen a lot of these happen as a result of space heaters. So these are fire hazards in older homes.
然后呢，他也是不建议去用这些小型供暖器的，通常这些要插电的。OK， 他说这些其实用很多的电，它有可能就是1个小时1500的这个kilowatt， 然后呢，它就是4个小时可能就用去1块钱的OK， 我们说的是每天都用的，然后他们也不建议这些，因为用电太大了，他不建议去把它插进去这些就是延长线。因为这个延长线可能不够力的话呢，就可能烧起来，很多火灾都是就是这些发生的，尤其是特别是那些比较旧的房子。
So just to wrap up, if it's affordable, I always recommend that if folks do have concerns about their energy in their home, that the best way to fix it is to begin with hiring an energy auditor or to have an energy audit. And if money is tight, if the budget is tight, but you want to do the most cost-effective thing, then that's easy. Air sealing is the single most cost-effective measure that can be done to a house. And quite often it's within the capabilities of a capable homeowner. Or of course it can be, there are companies that will come out and do the air sealing for you, but that is the most cost-effective thing that you can do in your house.
然后他就是说了，如果是想有钱的话呢，就可以去找一个说能源的这个审计师，就是去看看你能源哪里可以省能源。可是如果没钱的话，其实最简单的就是把漏空气的地方都把它密封的。通常这些都是一些有能力的房主都可以做到的。
And insulation, you should have at least 12 to 15 inches of insulation in your attic. And also, if you have an oil or gas-fired furnace or boiler, you should have it tuned up every 1 to 2 years.
然后呢，他就是说，然后阁楼每个人都有阁楼的嘛 ，OK， 从就是屋顶跟房子之间有一个阁楼，它最好就是有12英尺到15英尺的这些隔热的这个材料，就是把它这个然后还有就是，如果你是有这个暖气系统的话啦，不管你是油还是煤气的话啦，他都建议每1到2年都要去做一个调整。
So that's my very basic do-it-yourself energy conservation presentation. I would like to mention, are you familiar with Built to Last program?
Yes, I think we are one of the 5 agencies that's going to do it.
Yes, you are. It's by far and away, it's the best thing going in Philadelphia right now because it's a program for folks that are income eligible. And it's designed to not only weatherize the home to make it more energy efficient, lower energy bills. If there are any issues in that house, whether it be a leaking roof or a leaking basement or just about anything that you know, it's a physical defect in that house, Built to Last will repair that, fix it, and then weatherize the house. And it's all at no cost if that homeowner is income eligible. So I strongly recommend that if folks are living in a home that needs weatherization, but it also has problems, to please contact you or you know, enroll in the Built to Last program because it's a tremendous bargain, obviously at no cost. And it can really improve your home and lower your energy bills.
对，刚才他就是说了，刚才他讲了好多，就是关于可以自己做了去这个省能源的节能的这个办法可是他就是提醒有一个叫 Built to Last， 就是 BLT 这个防寒保暖的计划是新的计划，是市政府出来的。他问我们 PCDC 有没有参加，我们是其中5个机构里边其中一个是可以帮人申请的。他这个不只说帮你把这些空气就是防寒保暖，把这个房子就是隔绝这些空气流动的。可是它也会，如果你有房子有屋顶漏水地牢漏水还是说结构上有什么问题的，它基本上都会先帮你维修好了，然后再帮你做这个隔热隔冷的这个这些东西就是防寒保暖 ，OK， 所以这些也是如果你合资格的，这是完全是不用付钱的。
Okay, well, that's my presentation. And if there are any questions, if there's time, I'll be more than glad to answer them.
Okay, 他就是说他讲的都讲完了，还有没有谁是有什么问题？有没有什么问题？就还有时间的话，我们可能用几分钟 ，maybe we gonna just see if anyone has like couple questions.
Sure.
有没有谁是有问题？ Okay. It seems like they don't have questions.
That's how effective my presentation.
Yes, yeah, but I'm also gonna just remind people. Like I think this we're closer to the winter now. People, I don't know how many people are calling the heater hotline. But it's time for them to call them and maybe, as you said, like turn up their heating systems.
Yes.
对我就想提醒大家，他刚才提供这个有一个暖气热线 ，OK， 你不需要等到你的暖气有快才打给他了，因为现在很快就冷天了，所以大家其实可以打去他的冷气 heater hotline 上面写的21556879190打过去，然后要求他们过来去帮你调整一下你的暖气，确保这个暖气是可以有效的去运行，所以大家是可以打电话要求他们是免费的。
Okay.
Yes, I think we are good. Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you,
yes.
as always.
You know, I will send you more questions if we have it.
Yeah, that's fine. I love the questions. So yeah, don't hesitate to send them my way.
Okay, yes, yes. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
All righty. Bye-bye.
bye. Okay,
Right.
Shirley, you
Okay, yes, so that will conclude our NAC service area briefing today. Thank you all so much for attending our meeting, and thank you, Ping, for all of your translations.
他都是说这样，所以今天基本上到这里了，就是很大家谢谢大家参加，也谢谢我帮他翻译。Shirley, I just want to make sure if you have enough people sign in.
Yes, I believe I do.
Okay, I have not signed mine in yet. Do you 还有没？如果还有人是没有 sign in 的话，麻烦你就是 sign in， 让我们知道究竟有多少个人参加这些这个会，因为我们是每3个月都要就是每一个季度都要做一次的，每3个月要开一次这样子的会所以希望大家就是跟朋友分享然后就是要填表格，让我们知道是有人参加，我们才可以汇报给市政府知道是有人参加了，这样子我们才可以接着去做这些资源分享的。Okay, thank you, Sherry. So 这个表格是在这个聊天栏里边的，所以麻烦大家如果还没签的话，就把它登记了。Okay. So Sherry, I think I forgot to ask Steve for the slides. Yeah, so you might want to send a follow-up email on that.
Okay, I can do that. Yep.
如果我们之后有分享的话，我们会在微信上分享这些资源如果有问题的话，也可以打电话过来问我们。Okay, if you guys have any question, you can also call our office. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's meeting.
Okay.
Hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
说谢谢。